Come on! He's back! Woohoo! It's time! It's finally happening! Woohoo! It's happening! Woo! Hello, it's McEdam here, and I just want to make a little small video celebrating the fantastic news that Ninth Doctor himself, Christopher Eccleston, will be returning to the role in a series of audio dramas by Big Finish. And this is something that I have been begging for since I discovered Big Finish way back in 2010, I believe it was, or around 2010, 2011. And it's just phenomenal how this news has just impacted people with so much positivity, and it's just mad. It's just absolutely mad. Nobody thought it was going to happen. So let's backtrack a bit. Why is this so important? As somebody, to me personally, I grew up with Doctor Who before 2005. I was somebody who had a family relative who showed me the classic series on VHS. Particularly, I had one story from the second Doctor era and a bunch of stories from the third, the fourth, the fifth and the sixth Doctor era. And they were the Doctors I grew up with. And personally, back then, this was a dead show. This is a show that we never thought was going to come back. I didn't grow up on Sylvester McCoy or Paul McGann or William Hartnell, but I was aware of them, and one of my earliest memories is seeing the movie TARDIS in a magazine somewhere. And then 2004 happened, where they announced that Doctor Who would be returning to our screens with Russell T Davies, better known for his Queer as Folk television series, and Castleblanca, I believe no, it's not Castleblanca, Cast Revolver with David Tennant. And with it, he'll be bringing one of his main stars that he's been working with a lot of shows, Christopher Eccleston, back. Before I continue, I just got to show you these. A bit of spoiler for the Doctor Who marathon. For those of you who watch my channel, I make a lot of Doctor Who videos. I've been marathoning them through in chronological order from the Doctor, and I've got the complete first season on DVD, and I've given classic covers. I know they're not all of them. Well, they are all of them, but not on the discs, because like this one is actually volume 1. So that's actually got 3 stories in it, but it looked really ugly having 3 stories listed on. So I've just had it as the main story of the disc. So yeah, and just I remember watching the 2005 story. I can remember distinctly my family. We all got together and we all watched it on those big chunky silver television screens that we used to have back then before flat screens. I also have this, it's a really broken cover of Cult Time Special. I remember my mother bought me this because she knew I was excited, and I believe this is where they announced some of the title episodes of the series. So my mother got me this, and I was really grateful to her, and I still have it, even though it's like fallen apart. And then they announced that Billy Piper was going to be in it, which my mind just blew me away, because I knew Billy Piper from singing one of the songs from the Pokemon, the first movie. So that just blew me away. And the thing about Doctor Who is that there were 2 types of people back in 2005. There were the people who've never heard of Doctor Who before, and seeing I was a young kid back then, that was pretty much everybody I knew. or there was the people, in terms of the majority of people, is that they knew of Doctor Who as this silly, cheesy, stupid sci-fi show. And that was mainly because of the way it was left in 1989, where some of the sets and some of the production values weren't up to standards from them. And so Doctor Who has always had this reputation of being a bit cheap and having like tinfoil monsters and stuff. So when Russell T Davies and Christopher Eccleston came back to do the show, their main goal was to basically ground it a little bit and give it a much more realistic tone compared to previous seasons. And what they did with the show is probably one of the best seasons of any show you can ever name. I'm not even joking. I mean, some of them are weak. There are some weak ones in it, like Boomtown I wasn't particularly keen on, and The Long Game, and I wasn't too keen on the Slovene one when it first came out, but I've slowly grown to realise more the political messaging in it, so that's really cool. And then you've got some of the greatest written stuff in the show's history, which not only, because before I knew of the Daleks, obviously I watched some, the Dalek stories on VHS, but I was never scared of them and I never really took them seriously. In fact, I would have even gone far to say they were my least favourite Doctor Who monster. And then Dalek by Rob Sherman came out, and that story alone makes the Ninth Doctor. And to see not only Doctor Who return, but to have it on a high budget, well, I wouldn't say a high budget, but it was a high budget for Doctor Who. It actually looked like realistic. Taken so seriously and so well, and it was set, and it was airing in my lifetime. This season could have completely ruined Doctor Who if it didn't succeed, but it did, and luckily we're still watching it to this day. And a big part of it is Christopher Eccleston's acting. My God, this guy can act, which is really surprising, because even back then, I remember there was an interview with him before the series aired, in which he basically said that he admits that he's not a big Doctor Who fan. When he was younger, he only watched the regeneration episodes just to see the effect of the change in their faces. But he was never into it, and he's much more a Star Trek fan. That is completely fine. Doctor Who, as much as we hate to admit it, it is still a job, by the way. It's still an acting gig. And he doesn't have to particularly love the show to be, a part of it, And he announced that he was only going to do one series. He left and got regenerated into David Tennant, and that's just its own legacy right there. However, what makes this news today so big is what happened after Christopher Eccleston left the show. I mean, we all were pining for his return, and we all wished, it was always something that we wished that he would do, that he would come back in the role, especially in the 50th anniversary story, The Day of the Doctor, or in a Big Finish audio drama. But it never happened before. And what happened was, for a few years, since, say, I believe it was 2014, before 2014, Christopher Eccleston basically just said that he wasn't a fan of the show, and he got pretty sick of people only noticing him from Doctor Who. In fact, there was a incident in which he went to a panel and he asked that nobody ask him a Doctor Who question because he was just fed up of it. And somebody asked him a question and he walked off stage. That is completely fine. I completely understand that, he doesn't want to be typecast in this role is something that he wasn't particularly passionate about him personally, and he just wants to move on, and everybody just bummed him out and just got in and just got to him, and I completely understand that. And I believe the fan base did a very good job at like nobody held it against him that he was he didn't particularly like Doctor Who. We as a fan base were like, that's cool. I mean, we still love you. We still like you as the Ninth Doctor. Don't get us wrong. But, you know, we understand that you aren't a big fan of Doctor Who. So, there you go. And, yeah, maybe there was one or two people, but they were a very minor group of the audience. So, I believe the fan base took it extremely well. And I believe Eccleston had every right to not be too keen on the show, because, you know, I mean, as much as we'd like to believe, the show isn't for everyone. But then something interesting happened. Well, I say something interesting. Christopher Eccleston announced that he absolutely hated it during his time of making it, and he also goes into detail about when he decided to leave. The BBC basically reported that he left the role because he was tired, and that basically blacklisted him. A lot of studios wouldn't hire him because they felt like that he was a lazy actor who didn't want to do any long series. So the BBC blacklisted him. And he also goes into detail on how he wasn't happy with how Russell T Davies and the other two producers, who I can't remember their names, and maybe some of the higher ups at the BBC, he wasn't happy at how they were handling the show. Again, all these are completely fine. And it's something as well, because at the time he was talking about mental health, which was it was on like a special mental health day, in which he talks about his relationship with his twin brother, and which he always felt a bit bigger compared to him. So he suffered a lot from, he feel fat all the time. So he basically put himself through torture. He starved himself. He was making himself sick to make himself thinner. And it was happened during Doctor Who. So when he relates to the show, when he thinks about the show, he can only really think about these bad memories, which was really sad. And you know, again, he has every right to not want to be connected to the show after that. And he was a very strong person to come out with all this. I think a lot of people who watched the show with him in it and have also suffered similar issues could relate to him, and so and I also believe that the fan base was just so supportive of him. The group just praised him and was on his strong, and just felt really sorry for him, and just wanted, you know, everything to come out with him, and made sure that he was okay. And because of this little incident, because he had such a great warming relationship with the fan base now, because he came out with all these stories and nobody put it against him, he started to do panels. He started to go on Doctor Who conventions, and he actually met Matt Smith at one point, and there's a video clip on YouTube, fantastic. So yeah, and then I believe it was in February, he was at a panel, and the producers of Big Finish actually asked him to reprise the role. Just you know, just to be like, you know, yeah, just, you know, bit hoping, and he actually said yes, and that's how we're in this situation now. So I just want to take a time to just say thank you, Eccleston, for coming back to the role. You mean so much as the Ninth Doctor, and I'm sorry that you had to go through all that rubbish. But we are internally grateful that you come back. So what's happening? From what I can understand, we are getting 4 box sets, each starring 3 stories. So far, we don't know any of the writers, though Nicholas Briggs, though they say there's no announcement for a writer, Nicholas Briggs says, I'm glad I'm going to be writing for him. So I think he just accidentally confirmed himself. The first one will be coming out in May 2021, if I'm correct. And 3 of them will be coming out in 2021, and then the last one will be coming out in February 2020. So far, we have no idea on who the supporting cast is. Big Finish do have Billy Piper and John Barrowman on payroll, so we might get the full cast back. And yeah, we just got a lot to look forward to, and they're also releasing a vinyl version for each volume, so that's really cool. So what am I hoping? Personally, I hope there's a Sontaran story. I mean, it could still fit within the continuity of the show, because Rose has never met the Sontarans. I hope if we do get a pre-season 1, I hope we get to see the Cybermen. To see 9 versus Cybermen would be really cool. I hope we get a story with just the 9th Doctor and Captain Jack just meeting up and just being very close with each other. Because personally, I wasn't too keen on Rose. She didn't do anything for me, really. So I'd like to see more of the 9th Doctor and Jack just butting heads and stuff. Maybe in a story where they get captured and they got to like bond to get out. I mean, Rose is on another end and she has her own little plot line. I would also like to see Jackie Tyler return, because I really love her character. I don't know why, but I used to hate her, and now I absolutely love her. I want to get more of her as much as possible. And like I said, Big Finish have had her on payroll, so we could get her returning. And my biggest... Now, they're my hopes. But I will admit, I do have a few worries. Because Big Finish, don't get me wrong, Big Finish are amazing, and 9 out of 10, they write some brilliant stories and brilliant, but they have picked up some bad habits. So I hope I'm going to address the issues I have with just Big Finish in general, and just pray to God that they don't do it with the 9th Doctor. The main one is the heavy reliance on story arcs. Big Finish are usually good at keeping stories self-sustained, but recently when they're doing these box sets, the 8th Doctor ones have been heavily connected with each other, and you can't really listen to one without collecting the entire series, and I really don't want that. I want it to be more self-contained stories. I pray to God. That's the only thing I think I demand from Big Finish, is that they don't make a heavy storyline. Because then you can like buy the first volume, and then Big Finish will basically, like, if you want to get the full story, you will have to buy the entire series. I don't want that. Another big issue I have with Big Finish is that their over-reliance on geekdom, basically, because a lot of their stories, they seem like they come up with references first, and then they base a story around that. For example, the 4th Doctor interacts with the Tomb of the Cybermen for some reason, and probably the most stupidest one of them all, the 5th Doctor meets the Slovene. Why? It's just so stupid. And a lot of their stories as well, because canon doesn't apply to it, they do have to go really wibbly wobbly, tiny wimey. For example, they had Derek Jacobi's master meet Paul McGann, but Derek Jacobi's master actually first met the 10th Doctor, so how does that all work? So they made a really complicated story, and I don't want that. So yeah, obviously you can have your fandom. Just don't make them feel like you have to have a plot line. If that makes sense, don't make it like fan wanky. Just to have a good story first, and if there's a chance that you can reference something, then you of course do it. But just don't rely on it. And another big issue with Big Finish recently, which is something that I wouldn't mind them doing, but it is an issue with just Big Finish in general, and that is the overuse of the multi-doctor stories. Originally, back in the show, well, still in the show, multi-doctor stories were used for special occasions, like the anniversaries, or Children in Need, if we're counting the one with the 10th and the 5th Doctor, Time Crash. But Big Finish seemed to have at least 2 multi-doctor stories constantly, especially when it comes to 6th and 7. They seem to be meeting up every 2 seconds, and it does take away from the big events when they are supposed to be like this gigantic team up, because they've already had so many adventures with the multi-doctor stories. And I think you can have multi-doctor stories with the 9th Doctor. I would be excited with it, but just don't rely on them. Don't constantly make 9th Doctor team up stories. And yeah, so that's my quick interest into this news. I hope you enjoyed this video and just like me ranting about Doctor Who. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and follow the marathon that I'm doing. I'm currently on the 3rd Doctor Adventures on YouTube. I upload them way early in advance. So in real life, as I'm recording this, I've just finished the 4th Doctor and Leela. But on YouTube, I'm at the 3rd Doctor. So yeah, like, subscribe, follow the marathon, and Christopher Eccleston is back on Big Finish. Woo! There you go. So see you all soon. Ta.